Well, thanks, Deputy Speaker. I've got a strange sense of déjà vu. It feels like we were here in the same place debating the same motion this time last week. But if the Liberal Party want to talk about their second-rate NBN, if they want another mauling from the Labor Party about what they're doing and the mistakes that they're making to the NBN, then we're very happy to oblige. And that's because the people of Australia don't want a second-rate NBN. They want the real NBN. And in the member for Banks electorate, that's what they're now not going to get. In places like Hurstville, in Peakhurst, in Padstow or Lugano, these are places that would have got fibre to the home. Now they're going to miss out. Now there's new developments in places like Hurstville, like Riverwood and Kingsgrove. These are places that have got fibre to the home, but all around those areas, places where people live and need the real NBN, they're going to miss out. And don't worry, we'll be very happy come election day to tell them all about it. We'll also tell them about the broken promises of this government. I've spoken before about the promise the Prime Minister made that by 2016 everyone would have access to 25 megabits per second. But just recently I came across this, which is Tony Abbott's letter to the Australian people, published on election day, published on news.com.au at 9:11 p.m. that night. And in that letter he talks about being a no surprises, no excuses government.
That worked out for him.
That hasn't worked out too well. He talks about being a government that says what it means and does what it says. That hasn't really happened.
He's on a roll.
And then there's this beauty. I want our NBN to be rolled out within 3 years. And Malcolm Turnbull is the right person to make this happen, within 3 years. Well, that didn't last long.
What a cracker.
It didn't last 3 years. It didn't last 3 months. It was December last year when they broke that promise. But interestingly, I checked on the Liberal Party's website this morning and that promise is still on the Liberal Party website. This is just bizarre.
This is why we need a
They broke this promise 6 months ago, but they're still promising 25 megabits per second by 2016. They're that proud of their broken promises, they're publishing them on their website. Now, the Minister, apart from promising 25 megabits per second by 2016, also promised that his negotiations with Telstra would be quick. Well, how's that going? It's now 9 months since the election this week and there's still no sign of an agreement. And here's the reason. The government wants to buy the copper and Telstra doesn't want to sell it. The head of Telstra recently said they want to keep ownership of the copper network. The chairman of NBN, Ziggy Switkowski, said earlier this year that he thinks ownership of the copper network should be transferred to them. Now, that's despite the fact that advice to the minister when he came to office late last year said that the government purchasing the copper would be, quote-unquote, a very high-risk approach, and that instead they should lease the copper or have a managed service. Now, Deputy Speaker, whoever wins this fight, whether it's the government or whether it's Telstra, there's one group of people that will lose out, and that's the Australian people, because they'll end up with an ageing copper network rather than fibre. The NBN is still not being rolled out fast enough. I've been critical of our government in not rolling it out fast enough, and I make the same criticism of this government. In October last year, the minister was in Blacktown and he said that 450,000 premises would be passed by fibre by the end of this month, by the end of June, and he's not going to meet that target. He also said a few things in Parliament last week. He said that the government's second-rate NBN would be about $30 billion less expensive for taxpayers. That's not right, and I said last week the difference between the cost to taxpayers between their model and ours is less than $1 billion. The minister disputes this. Well, Deputy Speaker, who's right? Well, respected journalist René LeMay looked at this issue last week, and what's his verdict? He says, quote, "The evidence shows that Claire is correct." And so, if the Liberal Party want to debate the NBN, then we say bring it on. You've got broken promises that are still on their website. You've got negotiations with Telstra that haven't been quick. You've got a fight between Telstra and the government on who owns the copper. Construction is still too slow. And in places like the members' electorate, in Banks, in places like Padstow and Peakhurst, they're going to miss out on the real NBN and get a second-rate NBN instead. So keep moving motions like this. Go right ahead.